As you think about the many moving parts in a data migration landscape and focus on creating a load program, you want to begin with the objective in mind. But visibility is a challenge across the board if you're using standard tools, or no tools at all. MDA Workbench lets you see the objective, the target IDOC, in detail, and provides visibility and context at every touchpoint. You select the relevant IDOC segments and fields, and then publish a beautiful mapping document, as well as scripts to create database staging tables. Here's the key thing. MDA Workbench reads master data and configuration from the target system client. This context enables fast and accurate creation of sample data and validation rules, which you can be confident are appropriate for the target system client. Here's another amazing feature. MDA Workbench creates the LSMW object, ready for you to import into SAP and execute unit tests with the sample data you just created. Lastly, the same master data, configuration data, and validation rules are used to validate load-ready files, catching most errors before even attempting to load data. That's what you'll see in this end-to-end example of MDA Workbench. Let's set the stage by describing the demonstration objective. We want to mass update 3 fields in the material master. By the way, this is the very same requirement we demonstrated using only LSMW in another video. You can watch that for more conceptual detail and to see this same LSMW object being created manually. It's slow, and it's a good comparison of effort and accuracy for meeting the same objective with MDA Workbench. Our mission is to mass update the purchasing group on the basic data view, material description, and our requirement is for English only, and purchasing group and the logistics view. As reference, here are the input files and target IDOC structures. Also as reference, here are the input files mapped to IDOC segments with field level detail. Again, there's massive detail about how to think through this design in the previous video, so we won't cover that here. Okay, let's get to work with MDA Workbench. The first time you use MDA Workbench, it's a good idea to check a few settings, such as your preferences for file paths. You'll find these in the File Options menu. Each setting has a small explanation that appears at the bottom of the screen. Adjust the file paths for your local PC or your network preferences. Then we'll create a new project by choosing File New, and we'll give it a project ID and a description. Also provide the LSMW project and subproject names. Many of the settings that you're making here are the same settings that you would be making if you were using T-code LSMW. Then save the project. I'm a habitual saver. MDA Workbench connects to your target SAP system client, so the next thing that we'll do is maintain the SAP connection details. In the External Ribbon tab, click the SAP Data Source button and maintain your connection details. Then we'll add an IDOC reference to the project. For our objective, ArtMass09 is the correct reference. MDA Workbench fetches the IDOC definition from the target system client, and extended or custom IDOCs are added in the same way. But you'll see far more detail with MDA Workbench than you would see using a standard T-code such as WE60. Each IDOC reference is a possibility for an LSMW object. So we'll assign an LSMW object name here. And then we'll close the panel for real estate reasons. Now with all of the IDOC segments displayed, we're going to choose the relevant segments and choose which ones to merge. The merge indicator is used to group IDOC segments. Every segment that's not merged indicates the beginning of another input file. Merge is a key concept. Remember how we decided to logically group the segments? Checking the merge option means that the merged segment is logically grouped with the previous segment. For example, because description is English only, we can think of it as basic data. Even though there's a one-to-many relationship possible, we merge that segment with the basic data. Now let's filter on the active segments. So you can see how the merge indicators align with the original plan for the relationship between input files and target structures. Open the first segment and notice that the value tables for each field are indicated. During IDOC processing, these value tables represent the master data and configuration values that are checked. Material is missing value table Mara, so we'll add that by double-clicking the row header for the segment. Now select the relevant fields in each segment by marking each field as active or LSMW. The choice is another key concept. A field marked as active will be set by a matching field in an input file, but a field marked as LSMW will be set by the LSMW program, for example, as a constant value or by ABAP code. Don't worry about choosing fields in the so-called X segments. MDA Workbench will take care of those with one click. That's another time saver. Now we'll set the primary keys for each input file. For each tab, which represents an input file, mark the primary key fields. Notice that this is unlike LSMW, which assumes primary key fields based on field names, which is a bad assumption. When done, set the filter to display only active fields. Now let's get some context. Click the Refresh Tables button in the Validation menu group to download the definitions of relevant value tables. Check each value table definition and select fields as needed, such as descriptions. Then transfer data for the selected tables and fields from the SAP system to your local system database. Tables such as SPRAS cannot have primary keys created, and this is normal. The Database Browser button enables browsing the downloaded data, the contents of the local system database. Now let's put this data to use as we map rules for each target field. Adjust the panels for screen real estate reasons. And activate the validation engine. When the validation engine is active, the panels show validation rules in context from the value tables. For example, clicking the function field displays a list of valid values. Now you know that you can map the field as a constant of 005. In the second segment, material should take the value of material from the previous segment. This is accomplished by using simple keywords and the option for ABAP code. Use the editor to enter keywords. At field means this field. Then supply the segment field to take the value from. Tools complete X structures will fill the mapping for the so-called X segments. Let's look at the result. With only a few segments and fields left to map, you should be able to predict actions for the remaining entries based on what you've seen so far. All of the segment and fields are now mapped. Let's add some validation rules. Choose Validate and then Initialize to create basic validation tests for every field. For every field, MDA Workbench adds simple tests for validation of field length and for detection of leading trailing spaces. You can add an unlimited number of your own tests. Value as pattern uses regular expressions to validate supplied data. Value in pick list checks that a value is found in a validation table. For test parameters, simply specify the table field, such as Mara-Matner, to validate material number. A vertical pipe followed by an R means to retain the value list in memory for very high performance validation. Likewise, purchasing groups should be validated against the configuration table. Notice that the left item panel helpfully shows the table and field names as you're maintaining validation tests. Now let's create some sample data. Each tab in the sample data screen represents an input file. Add a couple of empty rows and maintain values. The validation engine helps you all the way. Value lists displayed in the lower panel provide perfect context. Cells in red indicate an error, and hovering over the cell displays a tooltip with the error message that you created. Let's try to export the data. Whoops, we're warned that the sample data violates primary keys. Let's have a look at the data. Sure enough, it's wrong. Let's adjust it. Now we can export. Let's have a look at the load-ready files that were produced for unit testing the LSMW program. Now it's time to click the Publish button and witness the repeatable magic of MDA Workbench. With the click of one button, a folder is created with a full set of deliverables. We've created backup copies of the mapping project and the load-ready data files. First, you'll notice there's a beautiful mapping document that includes sample data as a reference. There's also a database script for creating staging tables. And here's a key thing, the LSMW project ready to import into SAP. Let's import the LSMW object. First, use the administration screen to delete the LSMW object if it already exists. Then import the LSMW object. Maintain the IDOC settings and check the inbound parameters. Now we're ready to execute unit test. Step by step, work through read data, convert data, IDOC creation, and start IDOC processing. If the processed IDOCs aren't displayed, just use T-code WE02. Here they are. Let's have a look at the values in each segment of one IDOC. Let's have a look at one of the mass updated articles. The description was correctly updated, and the purchasing organization was correctly updated in each validity area. Thanks for watching. Now download MDA Workbench and give it a try on your own.